All right, welcome back. Now we're talking about a game we would normally be here talking about afterwards. We're going to talk about it beforehand. That would be the Ravens game because you got 2 games in 5 days. So, Andrew, I want to start with you on this one. The Ravens are a team that I still believe will get into the playoffs. There's an extra team involved here now. They have a very easy schedule after this week's game against Pittsburgh. So I suspect they'll right the ship. But how important is it for them to come in here and win this game? And as far as the Steelers are concerned, what do they do to attack Baltimore?
Well, they keep doing what they've done to Lamar Jackson in the 2 games they've seen him, Bob. They've forced 5 fumbles and 5 interceptions. They've done a great job against him. The pressure, the way that they blitz, they bait him into things. They're relentless. I mean, that should remain status quo. But, you know, I think this game, the Ravens have a lot of problems. We could fill this entire segment talking about the ways they've regressed off of last year. But I will say this about the game Thursday night. The Ravens are a very prideful franchise. They're not as good as the Steelers right now, but I don't think they're a bad team. And they will go into this game, I think, playing for their manhood at this point. With the way Tennessee mocked them and went in there and won today and laughed in their face, I would think we get the most hungry Ravens team maybe we've seen in the last few years Thursday night, and that can be a dangerous thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost do or die for the Ravens right now, guys. I mean, they got to come in here. They have to win. If they don't win, they're in jeopardy of missing the playoffs altogether. Right now, I think you can pretty much kiss the division goodbye for the Ravens. I mean, being at 6-4, you'd still have to catch the Browns, and I don't think there's any chance of catching the Steelers. I know it's mathematically possible, but this reminds me a little bit of the way it was last year, the way the Steelers started, and they needed to beat the Ravens, and they lost here to the Ravens, and that really put the Steelers behind the 8 ball in order to get back. I agree, Pomp, that they will maybe get back into this race because they have an easier schedule, but I think they're only fighting for a wild card spot right now. But like Pony said, when these 2 teams play, it doesn't matter what the records are. I like the fact that the Ravens, though, had to play overtime today. They're going to come up in here. They're going to come up here a little beat up too.
Yeah, they certainly are. Tennessee is flawed in some ways, but a really physical football team. The schedule helped the Steelers out a little bit. This will be a close football game, guys. You know the drill. It's Steelers and Ravens. And don't think for a second the Ravens wouldn't love to be the team to hand the Steelers their first loss on national television, no less. They will be ready for this game. I do think Mike Hilton being back in the lineup is a huge deal in this game for the Steelers. He is such of an effective player against Lamar Jackson. I think theoretically we didn't see him in the first matchup. The way he can blitz, the way he can play against the run, I think that helps. And I will say this, guys, what a shame it is that we can't have 70,000 people at Heinz Field Thursday night. Can you imagine what the atmosphere would have been like on Thanksgiving night?
It would have been outstanding. All right, let me ask you this. Rich, I'll start with you because a lot of talk already, and when you win 10 straight, there is the inevitable, can they go undefeated? Or do they have to lose a game just because it rechecks reality or whatever the case may be? But I'm not of the belief that the Steelers can afford a loss. I'm assuming Kansas City is going to be knocking on their heels all year. So to me, this is different than what New England went through several years ago when they went 16-0, and I don't think they had to win that last game, but they chose to win it by playing their regulars. The Steelers want to get the number 1 seed because there's a bye that comes with it. It's the only one available. But do they have to lose to refocus like some people seem to think?
No, I don't buy into that at all. I don't like when people say that, to lose to refocus. You just keep winning. And if they do keep winning, they're going to get a bye week right there to be able to rest the starters. So I personally think, okay, so let's look at the schedule. I think there's 3 games they potentially could lose here. The Ravens game, the Buffalo game, and the Colts game, maybe the Browns game, but I'm looking at those 3. But if they're in a position at the end of the season where they're 14-0 and 15-0, you cannot tell me that they're not going to play everyone trying to be 16-0 and be one of the few teams that ever accomplished that feat.
Well, I hear you on that. I think it's hard enough to win a Super Bowl. I think it's even harder when you're playing against history, too. And to me, the whole buildup of can they match the 72 Dolphins? Can they be the only team in history to go 19-0? I don't think it would be such a bad thing to lose somewhere along the way. So I guess I do subscribe to that. Bob, the one thing I'll disagree with you on is I don't think like 16-0 or 15-1 is going to be needed to lock up the number 1 seed. Have you seen Kansas City's schedule? They still got to go to Tampa. They got to go to New Orleans. Yep. They got to go to Miami. I mean, they're probably going to lose at least 3 games. So I think 14-2.
How about if they don't?
You're right. But I think they will. I think 14-2 will be good enough to lock up the number 1 seed.
I just think for the Steelers, whether it's 16-0, 14-2, whatever, the 1 seed is so much more important this season than in previous seasons.
You're right.
You get the 2 seed, you have to play 3 games to get to the Super Bowl and likely have to go to Arrowhead. And remember, the Steelers essentially did not get a bye week. That would be, I think, a really, really big deal to get that bye week and then potentially to get Kansas City here. Whether you lose a game or not, I don't think it really matters. This team just strikes me as really, really mentally tough, and I think that's a credit to its head coach and to Ben Roethlisberger. These guys, with the exception of the Dallas game, I think, have just been so focused every week. It's been impressive to watch.
Yeah, it's a veteran team, has a lot of experience. They know what to expect, and they do, I truly believe, take it 1 game at a time, just like they suggest. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about the Pirates, because why? Well, they made a couple of changes to their roster, and I want to look a little bit ahead. What does it mean for them? And then we're going to talk some Penguins. We're still not back at training camp. Josh, Yohe, what's going on? We'll get into that when we come back, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.